Okay, so did you see about Angelina Jolie is suing the FBI? She's suing the FBI.
You go, girl.
You go, girl. Get it, Queen. Kween, if anybody's wondering how I'm spelling Queen there. So Angelina Jolie is allegedly trying to hurt Brad Pitt with FBI suit. And of course, I'm going to go point of privilege again when you have enough money that you can use the Federal Bureau of Investigation in your as a means of hurting your ex-husband because kids, because lawsuit, because divorce.
Was it ever clear to you when you were looking into this why the FBI was involved in the first place? Because I can't tell.
Just that there was an anonymous tip, but I never saw anything that warranted, like, say, I don't know, Hannah Claire ends up getting married to Joe Schmo 32 from the internet.
That's so rude.
And they have 3 kids, Joe Schmo 32 Jr., Joe Schmo 32 the third, etc. And she wants to divorce. Is this?
Oh, do I?
I'm just saying. Or he wants. Okay, whoever.
Oh, wait, the man's gonna leave me. Oh, interesting, Brett.
I'm just saying that I don't think that the
you don't have high hopes for me, do you?
I have very high hopes for you.
Oh man.
I don't believe that if whoever it was, whether it's Hannah Claire or whoever, I don't think the traditional idea for getting divorced is to call the FBI.
Well, so the FBI got called presumably because the fight happened in one of their homes in Europe.
No, it didn't. No, it's because it happened on an airplane. It happened
traveling overseas.
They were. Oh, yes.
Is that why?
But I just love the idea that.
But what if the plane was already in the sky in America?
Well, technically, I think
it's an American
fighting?
aircraft,
so
it falls to the FBI, the American jurisdiction, but it doesn't fall to a state jurisdiction because they're in like unrestricted.
In the air, it's an American air, kind of like
if they're in American airspace.
Yes,
it's an American thing.
Well, no, I think if you're on the plane, it's an American vessel.
Have you seen that movie? I can't remember what it's called, but it's based on a real thing where they rescued a bunch of people from one of the embassies in the Middle East, and they had to like sneak them out. I cannot remember the name of the movie.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
and there's like a scene where like the plane goes up and it like dings, and
not
they're
13
like,
hours.
Maybe
I don't think it was 13 hours.
I think it is, but anyways, they like ding, and they're like, we've now reached, this many feet above whatever, and they all cheer because like at that point they cannot be arrested because they're out of the jurisdiction of that country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like in this case, I think it's probably that they were over American airspace, but also it's an American plane, so the jurisdiction falls to them.
So it says she's unleashed a desperate fishing expedition, suing the FBI under the name Jane Doe to find more about the investigation into an alleged jet incident involving Brad Pitt and why its agents didn't charge the actor. So I was like, what? Charge him for? Why is the FBI getting involved in?
Also, anonymous tip from apparently Angelina Jolie's camp, as it turns out. Like, are you showing your hand there where you're like, I heard this thing happened, and now I'm mad that nothing came of it.
So it says the FBI opened an investigation into Pitt in 2016 over claims that during a family flight home from Europe in 2016, he allegedly got into an altercation with their then 15-year-old son, Maddox. An anonymous call was made to the authorities, which triggered the FBI investigation, which closed on November 22nd, 2016, with no charges of wrongdoing filed. Days later, Angelina Jolie filed for divorce. So they're saying that she wanted to smear him by having this hanging over his head while then getting filed for divorce. But what I want to know is, like, wouldn't you call CPS or your local authorities for an incident like you don't go to the FBI for domestic
I stand
stuff.
by like CPS is a regional agency, like the Child Protective Service of each state. Like, so if they were at their California home, CPS would have investigated, right? But it's because it's on an airplane that I think they're bringing the FBI into it.
So
it's
was
a jurisdiction question.
So was it a very like dubious? Like, is that like her being very, very nefarious? Like, if we land, I
you
can't.
think she instigated something?
No, I'm just saying, like, if she got the idea in the air, like if this happens, it's like this is happening on a plane, which means I can bring the FBI in rather than.
I think it's not clear that she called the FBI. I think it's the way it's worded to me. It sounds she contacted authorities, meaning local police. She could have called CPS, and they said we can't do anything because of this red tape.
So then CPS anonymously called the FBI.
Yeah, because they would be like, I can't proceed any further, and then they would go to the police, and the police would then kick it to the FBI.
Is that normal?
There's an FBI. I mean, like there are FBI bureaus all over the country.
Well, I'm sure that like instances of alleged abuse don't often happen.
so why would
But like,
CPS
if there's like international, like if there's a cross state line kidnapping, the FBI is involved, right?
But
So,
why
like,
why does the CPS, why does your local jurisdiction have to call anonymously?
I'm not. It says that there was an anonymous call,
No,
so I
the
think there was an
caller
anonymous
was
call to the
anonymous.
authority, meaning local authorities. Like, so let's say they're in California, she called California police, who might have triggered CPS investigation, realized that they couldn't actually have jurisdiction because, again, of where this took place. So they contact the FBI.
A woman identified
Again,
as Jane Doe,
My complete theory.
strongly suspected to be Jolie, is suing the FBI for information regarding its investigation into an incident of alleged domestic violence on a private jet years ago that matches the description of the incident that led Jolie to split from Pitt. The suit filed under the Freedom of Information Act is seeking information about the agency's investigation of an incident of domestic violence that occurred several years ago involving plaintiff and her minor children as victims and witnesses.
Can I just double back here? They're saying it led Jolie to split from Pitt, but she didn't. She split months later. I mean, I feel like it sounds like their marriage was already disintegrating.
That's why I'm
on the
suspicious
way
of her
out.
her timing and the decision to do it as like a way of making him look bad.
Has their divorce been finalized? It was going on for years. at
I
one
believe
point.
I saw another article early, like that obviously wasn't something we'd cover. It's like Angelina Jolie is now suing him for selling like a home they owned together without her permission or something like that. So it says Doe explained that the FBI investigation, but investigated, but publicly announced it was closing the investigation of the incident without further action. Because what are they supposed to do? Like what do you do in that case? The kids would have to testify, I guess, or like.
Well, they presumably interviewed the children.
Yeah.
And at the end realized like nothing was going on.
Yeah, it
right.
says, Doe adds that the suit she has public status and wants to remain anonymous, adding that the other party, the husband, also has public status. So, so that seems to me like that's her. But like I was thinking back to like when we talked about Justin Bieber suing the two random women who accused him of sexual assault
Two
because
anonymous Twitter accounts.
two anonymous Twitter accounts because there's no actual information on who they were. And that's what happens when you live in an extremely litigious society, right? Like,
Right.
Well, technically, the FBI can find out who anybody is anonymous on Twitter.
and they just don't care in this
Yeah,
case.
they don't care enough.
But FBI, to be fair, I don't think the FBI ever weighed in on Justin Bieber's situation. They just
No,
checked
yeah,
into Brad
yeah.
Pitt. and
They
his
could have if they
alleged
wanted
child
to.
abuse.
Well, actually, I don't know. That actually would be outside their jurisdiction, I suppose, unless it happened, I guess, across state lines. With like if he committed the crime in another jurisdiction, that
Yeah,
wasn't where he
cyber
lived or
crimes.
something.
I think cyber crimes get kicked up a little bit faster and higher because, again, typically they happen like it's more than likely, probability wise, that the Twitter accounts of the Justin Bieber case, like people who are operating them aren't in the same state of him, which
Yeah.
again moves it to the FBI. I remember the Brad Pitt. So like famously, Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt were not married for several years. She had adopted, I think Maddox was her first kid, and then he adopted him afterwards when they got together. They had some kids biologically, and they had adopted some more children, big blended family. And what I remember is that they said they weren't going to get married until same-sex marriage was legalized. And then they waited a little bit after that to get married.
They're like,
The
well,
most arbitrary condition ever.
And, because that would make everyone change their... Wait, well, we have to get Brad and Angelina married.
I think my favorite before is if you look at this photo of them. My favorite thing is like how like I think there's literally every facial expression that a human being can make is on each one of these kids' faces.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing ever. Like the one on the girl on the left looks kind of like she looks really happy. This one's like, I'd rather be home playing video games. He's like, I don't know.
None of them look like they're totally glad
to be there.
Yeah.
And to be fair, she looks I guess stone-faced kind of.
She's always been sort of a reserved face person.
Yes.
I will say though that like I remember this period of time when it was like coming out that they were getting divorced, and even before then, like they had conflicts because he wanted to spend more time with his family, who's from like Louisiana or like the Midwest or something, like in America, and she had this vision that their children would have like private tutors, and they would like always be globetrotting.
The
and,
globalism, the family.
yeah, like they have houses in multiple countries, so their children could be like speaking different languages and like homeschooled in all these places. It sounded always, and again, like it's tabloid reporting. Brad and Angelina don't call me and talk about this stuff, but like
Be cool if they did,
sounds
they-
like they have had conflict in the way they're raising their children for a long time.
Yeah.
So
Seems like something you need to talk about before you have children.
no. But
apparently not.
You just do it.
Think that, but as it turns out, you don't have to have children to talk about these things. Maybe you should. But this idea that like she would want some sort of child abuse allegation to be able to be named the sole custodial parent, right, is not actually super far off the gossipy rumors that were around them for a long time. Again, neither one corroborated this as far as I know.
Says Angelina is likely looking for a morsel of information, something else to use against Brad to hurt him. This is a desperate fishing expedition trying to find something that likely doesn't exist in FBI notes and make it public. The source added that both Jolie and Pitt were given information about the investigation when the FBI closed the case 5.5 years ago. So it's like, whenever these things happen, like I can't imagine getting divorced, let alone getting divorced with like that many assets and family members and all the stuff you have to extricate from one another just to make a clean break of it.
And I think their marriage didn't, like, they were together longer out of wedlock than they were together in marriage. Like, marriage did not last very long for them. Like, to me, that's like such, like, sorry, the idea of divorce sounds horrible for a lot of reasons, but also having to be like, where are our taxes and our money? Now we have to talk to lawyers and divide it all up. That sounds horrible, especially when you already hate someone. You know what I mean?
I still think that's why Will and Jada don't get divorced. They're just like, we've got so much money.
Yeah,
we've got so many.
This corporation is too hard to divide up.
Yeah, like I don't want to split assets. Let's just sleep in different rooms. Yeah. F it. Like I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, and I think too, like this, like, you know, obviously child abuse is extremely serious, and like, it's great that Brad got cleared in a lot of ways, right? Yep. Because like the idea generally is that we all don't want any child to be abused.
Of course not.
But it does, again, to me seem more like about being in control of like how the children's lives are run. And when you've made a very complicated home life, you live in Italy sometimes and you live in Paris other times and you live over there and this other, like, you know, and then Brad's like, no, but I want them to see my parents in, again, I don't know where Brad Pitt is from.
And then she's like, sorry, that's not sophisticated enough.
That's not what I want. I want a global upbringing, you know, like it just seems like a recipe for a crazy divorce anyway.
I don't mean this to sound mean, but it sounds like, have you ever heard, I don't know if either of you guys listened to like, have you ever listened to Bill Burr? But you just think about like how like men would never want to go to brunch. It's like a thing, like, it's like, well, let's go pay $27 for eggs because you can't have a day off. That's like, he's like, that's like what it's like being like, he's like, it's the neuroticism of like a woman. You always have to have something to do. I'm not saying that that's what's true. Well, I'm saying that that's but I'm saying like she had this perfect plan, and then his desires was, you know, less structured but more family oriented around his family at home. It's like, look, they are our kids' family too, and it was getting in the way of like a perfect idea she had in her head, perhaps, of what it would be like to raise their kids, and it caused friction.
I think it's like you know, to Mary's comment earlier, like it's extremely important when you're getting serious with someone to be like, you may not have a ton of experience with children, you may not know exactly how many you want or whatever to do, but to get a baseline expectation of like what your partner's family life was like and how they want their children's life to resemble or not resemble that is really important, because like otherwise you have a kid and you're like, oh, but I never want to see your family for Christmas, and they're like, what? I wanted to live with my mom.
Stuff you should work out beforehand.
Chaos.
Stuff you should work out beforehand, for sure. Mary, do you have your family, like, how big is your family? Because, like, when you came out here, you were with your...
I was with my aunt and uncle here.
And is your family very close?
Extended family, not as much, but my immediate family, yes.
And that's one of those things like people at like how often do you like? I get that. I hear people ask that question to other people a lot. Like, how often do you speak to your parents? Whether it's every day, once a week, once a month, and it's different for every single person. Now imagine having to just for me, like, you know, I love my family. I love my dad. I love my brother, but I don't get to talk to them very much. My brother's very, very busy raising his kids. My dad is retired and doing his thing, and I'm busy at work every day, and I don't, you know, sometimes I do feel bad about not being able to make the time, or maybe not having the motivation to make the time every day to have 5 minutes to talk to them. But it's also like, imagine now having to do that with 6 kids, and all of that going on, all while being in the public eye. That just sounds awful to me. Well, like, I wouldn't want to do that.
I would love to see, again, I don't know if the divorce is finalized, like, when you're getting divorced and you're sorting out custody, you normally there are like preliminary agreements about like, okay, so you're going to spend every other week at your dad's house or whatever else. Like, what is their custody agreement going to look like? Like, is she some places will say like you're not allowed to transport the kids out of state. Like if it gets really contentious, right? If they think that you're likely to not return with them,
they should all take the Elon Musk route and just
have lots of kids with lots of random people. No,
yeah, that's
sounds
what you do.
good.
I
really like Elon Musk, and I love that he's super pro family and like having kids, but like.
I don't think he's pro family. I think he's just pro like spreading his seed.
Yeah, it's hard to tell what's
he's
taking
pro
up in other people's lives.
There are like lots of stuff, like reports of the fact that he would like try very intentionally to spend kids. Like he has the 5 sons from his first marriage, and he like would fly them down to his factory to make sure he was getting time with them every week, or he like opened a school because he's like really involved in their education, like in the factory. But like also now we've got Grimes. I totally believe that he fathered Amber Heard's surrogate baby just out of conspiracy.
Pro legacy, not pro family.
This maybe has turned into something else.
Yeah.
How old is that Amber Heard surrogate baby?
That one
right
was
now?
born in between It was born in 2021, so it'd be in between the time he had X with Grimes and they had their daughter, which they also had via surrogate.
If it's his, we'll see in like 10 years.
No, soon. I think there's like a chance it comes out in his testimony in the Amber Heard. Isn't that crazy?
Ooh.
He'll be like, "Are you kidding me? This kid doesn't even have a 1-letter name. How could it be mine?"
We don't know that kid's name. It hasn't been revealed publicly.
If it comes out and the kid's name is W, then we'll wonder. Maybe that's, or if it looks like a math problem.
It's just called vengeance, and that's like between the two of them. That's like what they had in common.
If it comes out looking like if the name comes out looking like a math problem, it's probably his.
I don't know that Amber Heard would allow that.
I think that was just a Grimes thing.
Yeah,
well, they
she
were really.
imposed that.
They talked a lot about like space, and they would be like, "This is our favorite spacecraft or whatever." Like, okay, so what was his favorite thing with Amber Grimes? And it's like cutthroat, like climb to the top. Like that seems like what their baby's name might be.
Yeah, Gossip. The kid's name will be Gossip.
Oh my god, their kid's name will be like Headline Maker.
Washington Post.
No, let's hope not.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.